Well, there it is, folks. The major storm that is taking shape in the Plain States, and you can see the extent of coverage here on the satellite loop. I was able to put together a loop here across the United States, and you've got clouds basically reaching from one coast to another. This thing is going to continue to organize and intensify, and I'm thinking by this time tomorrow we're going to have a very, very impressive looking storm from the satellite signature on view here. Good evening, everybody. I'm meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to my YouTube channel tonight. We're looking at what probably will be one of the biggest snowstorms to hit the plains, certainly in the month of April. And actually, in terms of snow amounts, this storm could produce some 2 feet plus in some areas if the Weather Service forecast verifies. And looking at the guidance, I don't see why it couldn't happen. These storms out here, you get intense storms. You see them sometimes produce a foot or a foot and a half, but 2-foot storms are pretty rare indeed, even during the heart of the winter season. And here we are, almost to the middle part of April, that we are seeing this. And of course, this storm having impact in a lot of areas, in a lot of different ways. And we're going to take a look at those different ways, starting off with the watches and warnings. Just want to make sure you guys can see me, and I think you can. So good. Let's get to it. We're going to start with a map that you would expect to see certainly in the winter time if there was a winter storm going on someplace, judging by the huge extent of warnings, blizzard warnings from northwestern Kansas. A few additional counties have been added here, and northeastern Colorado, where yesterday it was close to 80 degrees in Denver, and right now on my last check a little over an hour ago it was 33 with light to moderate snow falling. We've got those blizzard warnings extending up through a good chunk of Nebraska, and that's including an area, by the way, that at the moment is under an enhanced risk of severe weather, believe it or not. And we've got blizzard warnings up through much of the state of South Dakota, extending into southwestern Minnesota. And either side of that, you've got winter storm warnings up for Minneapolis. We have winter weather advisories up for much of the southern flank of that in Wisconsin, and then you move up go to the northwestern half of Wisconsin under a winter storm warning. Much of the state of Minnesota, back over into parts of North Dakota, also the northwestern part of South Dakota, eastern half of Wyoming, down in through the mountains of Colorado. Also seeing the impact with regards to wind advisories and high wind warnings going back from Nevada and Southern California eastward through Texas, through much of the southern plains, and even through the central plains. And those wind advisories have been extended up northeastward into Missouri and Illinois and Indiana because of the impact that's going to happen there once the low begins to move out towards the northeast. So this storm is going to have a lot of impact in many states, and not just in snow. Let's take a look at WPC's rainfall forecast over the next 7 days, because we're going to take a look at this when we do the models. The weather system that's going to be coming for Friday and for Saturday across the Gulf states, and that's going to produce some big rainfalls there and some severe weather, which the Storm Prediction Center is already keying on. You have 5-inch plus rains being indicated. And excuse me, this is really from the Friday-Saturday system and not being produced by anything with this storm that's much further up to the north and west. Much of the air that's over the areas from Texas eastward right now is actually pretty dry, but you're looking at 5-inch plus rainfalls from the second system there in the lower Mississippi Valley, extending up into parts of western Tennessee and northwestern Mississippi, and large 2 to 3 inch rainfall amounts surrounding that. We can see from the snowstorm that is going to produce liquid, melted amounts of 2 inches or more in the areas that we have those blizzard warnings up, particularly in the eastern half of South Dakota and in through southwestern Minnesota. That looks to me like that'll be the area that's going to wind up taking the biggest hit from all of this. We have severe weather issues tonight, and as we said, some areas that are under the blizzard warning are also under risk for severe weather. In southeastern South Dakota, you can see that area of enhanced, the slight risk, and then the marginal risk. It's a small area, but nonetheless, they have to wait for the low to really get wrapped up and go by, and then you're going to see the changeover to snow. So that's going to come later on for this particular area. Let's look at temperatures. I think it's really important that we take a look at the temperatures and the wind, because that is a big deal here already. So I lined it up on the map, and these are this should, if it didn't update, it's probably about to update. And when we look at the surface map here, take a look at the wind barbs down in Kansas, and look at these temperatures, because you've got an incredible temperature gradient, just incredibly tight here from low to high. The readings, they might be a little hard to see because of the coloring they use, but Topeka right now in Kansas, 86 in Manhattan, Kansas. Salina is 84. We have Dodge City at 82. Looking at Kansas City is at 86. St. Joseph, Missouri is 81. I mean, these are really incredibly warm temperatures, and the air, as we said, pretty dry. Southerly winds 30 knots or higher. These are the sustained winds, not the gusts. And going down further to the south, look at the temperatures in Texas right now. We've got readings up at 95 in Childress, Texas. Not seeing what that is. Gage, Oklahoma is at 93. Some of these stations, when you hover over it, Dumas, Texas at 88. Lubbock is sitting at 88, as is Plainview, Hale County Airport there. Temperatures around Dallas, Fort Worth are in the mid to upper 80s, and just west of Dallas, we've got readings up in the low and middle 90s. That's insane. 90s going all the way down toward Austin, San Antonio, 100-degree readings showing up. This is, I think, the first of the season seeing temperatures over 100 degrees from Del Rio on southeastward. Nuevo Laredo, where I actually was there a couple of times in Nuevo Laredo, going back to my days when I worked at Corpus Christi, 104. I mean, that's insane. But this is what this storm is doing. A huge circulation, the impact of the time of year, of course. And then let's jump to the other side. Now, the low center, if you're just judging from the wind barbs, looks like it's somewhere somewhere near Dodge City, or just to the east of Dodge City. You've got southeast winds ahead of it. You've got northwest winds, that northwest wind at 15. We'll try and verify that off the surface map, which is probably running a bit behind. But it looks like that's where the main low center is at the moment. And just go slightly to the north and west. You head up into Nebraska, southeastern Nebraska. Lincoln is at 61. And in not too many miles away in Grand Isle, it's 39. I mean, that's a 22 degree temperature difference over not that many miles, just a couple of counties, and then just go a little further north than that, and you start to get the temperatures in the low 30s and 20s in western Nebraska, northeastern Colorado. Denver looks like it's now down to about 28. We've got temperatures in the mid-20s and even the low 20s throughout Wyoming. And some teens showing up there in western South Dakota. Rapid City at 21. Pierre, South Dakota is at 27. So you get the idea, folks. And of course, the winds running sustained every bit of 20 to 30 miles an hour. And let's see if I can get the gusts up here. Maybe we can put up the peak gusts. I'll take the temperatures off and take a look at what kind of wind gusts we're getting so far. And this is only going to get worse from the standpoint of the winds because of the fact that the low has still a ways to go in as far as deepening is concerned. But we've got some gusts here, 46 in Hastings. That looks like the biggest number that I could see in Nebraska, gusting to mid and upper 30s across much of Kansas. Here's a gust of 45 as you move up toward northwestern Kansas. I don't know what the town is here. Sometimes when you hover on these things, you know, you do get the city, and sometimes you don't, so you just have to guess. And the winds are also, look at these gusts. Oh my, look at these gusts near Amarillo, gusting to 59, gusting to 66 at Plainview Hale Airport, Lubbock gusting to 48. You've got wind gusts running at 50 miles an hour plus in eastern New Mexico, on up into Colorado. You're getting gusts up into the 30s, and of course those gusts up into the 30s up through Nebraska and parts of South Dakota and through Iowa. It's amazing. The impact in terms of the winds, 30 mile an hour plus wind gusts all the way almost to, but not quite to Chicago. That's how, you know, you've got a storm that still has to come out, and you've got this incredible wind profile. All right, here's the forecast for snow amounts from the Weather Service, and this doesn't include snow that may have already fallen, but Denver has a 6 print on there with 22 inches showing up in some of the higher elevations to the west. You've got a very broad area of all the white area here, the light purple and white. That's a foot plus, and then you start to get into the darker pinks, and then you're talking about a foot and a half, 20 inches, and in that orange area that you see in that small area in eastern South Dakota, southwestern Minnesota, that's probably 24 to 30 inches being forecast in that band. Minneapolis looks like they've raised their number up to about 10 with 1 to 2 feet just to the north and west of Minneapolis. Cuts off sharply, though, once you go south and east of there along the Iowa state line and in through Wisconsin. Mostly it's 6 to 12 for the northwestern half of Wisconsin with 1 to 3 inches as you go south and east. Just an inch at Madison, 2 inches at Milwaukee. One of my regulars on my Facebook page in west central Wisconsin said he just picked up 2 inches in the last hour with the first lead band that's moving moving through here. Severe weather, of course, you know, as we mentioned, that's a big deal. And I want to just kind of jump ahead of the game for tomorrow because the severe weather risk is going to shift eastward tomorrow into Illinois and Indiana, particularly in that area of slight risk, and extending up into southern Wisconsin, southwestern Michigan, eastern Iowa, eastern Missouri. The next day, for Friday, the severe weather risk diminishes from the plain storm, which by this time frame will be moving up toward the northern Great Lakes. But you start to see that marginal risk that breaks out across north central and northeastern Texas. That is going to be with a second storm that's going to be coming out of the Gulf states for Friday night and for Saturday. And the Storm Prediction Center has already, in its Day 4 outlook, indicated what will be an area of enhanced risk for severe weather in northern Louisiana and west central Mississippi, southeastern Arkansas, and a small portion of northeast Texas. That 15% area is your area of slight risk. You see this on a Day 4. You always, anytime you see it outside of the first day, your eyebrows should be raised. When you see them put it on the Day 3 and the Day 4 and the Day 5 maps, that's really telling you you got to pay attention to this. So there could be a rather serious outbreak of severe weather come Saturday morning into Sunday. The time frame here for the Day 4 period is Saturday 8 a.m. till Sunday 8 a.m. So figure later Saturday afternoon and into Saturday night for this area. And then on Sunday it shifts to a slight risk being indicated for a good chunk of the state of Alabama and much of the state of Georgia, along with the excuse me, the Florida Panhandle. I'm just going to take a swig of water here. Okay, so on to the surface map tonight. This is the 15Z, so we should have the 18Z. Let me see if I can freshen this up, and we'll see where the 18Z plot is. The the map with the winds and the temperatures that we showed you earlier, that is the 22Z time frame. So it's 4 hours ahead of this. But you can see that there's actually low pressure organizing there in central Kansas. Look to the north where you have these easterly isobars and this pretty big high to the north up in Canada. This is very cold air for this time of year with temperatures in the mid to upper 20s. A lot of moderate and heavy snows showing up already with the first lead band that's developing, so that's pretty busy. And there's your low center, and of course you've got the gradient and the strong winds. And look at these temperatures down through Texas. So dew points in the upper 50s and low 60s as you get further south toward the coast. It's not really all, it's a little more humid, but it's not crazy humid. But you go up to the north, up toward Dallas and north and west of there, you've got dew points in the 40s, and then head up into West Texas, northwest Texas. You've got a temperature of 82 with a dew point of 23. I mean, that's desert dry. That's desert dry air that you're seeing down in parts of West Texas. And where we've got the hundreds, of course, these obs haven't updated yet. You have dew points in the 40s, so it's reasonably dry in South Texas there, well into the interior. Just amazing when you see this. And of course, the 80s today extend all the way through the Gulf states. Some of this is actually setting the table for what's going to happen toward the end of the week. And you've got 80s extending into Alabama and near 80, upper 70s to around 80 through parts of Georgia. Meanwhile, back home, 70s into Virginia and the Carolinas. We did nicely today to see temperatures up around 60. We got rid of the marine layer here, and that is a good thing. We had a good deal of sunshine from eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. Also a big positive after yesterday sitting in the soup in a lot of these areas. Not all, but areas in New Jersey, most of New Jersey, Long Island, southern New England, the Hudson Valley were in the soup. All you got to do is turn the wind around to the northwest. Still kind of wintry, though, up in Maine. A little bit of leftover snow in down east Maine. That's pulling away, and weather conditions are going to start to improve up in that way. Now, here's the look on the radar right now. It's this, elongated east-west band. You have snow forming on the northeast side of it across Wisconsin and back into Minnesota. It's a relatively narrow band of moderate to occasionally heavy snow that runs from just north of Milwaukee, north and west of there through west central Wisconsin, bands across into across Minnesota, and then you start to swing it back. And then the echoes that you see back through western South Dakota, down into western Nebraska and into Colorado, this is all in response to that low center as it starts to intensify. Notice it's very dry. The radars are all pretty quiet. Through Texas, Louisiana, down across the southeast. You got a little bit of rain in South Florida. You got some showers off the south coast of Texas offshore. And that really is about it. In the west, California is quiet. We do have some rain showers going on coming into the Pacific Northwest. That Pacific energy is endless, folks. There's a parade of these strong short waves that are coming in, and each one is going to have impact going forward over the next week to 10 days. And we'll show you that as we get to the weather model. So let's run through the NAM here. First things first, and here's your low. I got the wide U.S. view here because this is the way at least we can look at both coasts at the same time. You've got that rain up in the northwest with snows in the mountains inland, but now, of course, this low sitting in Kansas here overnight moves up into northeastern Kansas by tomorrow morning. Southeastern Nebraska there is a 986 low. Some models have this down into the low 980s. I'm thinking that's probably where it will go. The radar signature that the NAM depicts is one of a snowstorm. And, of course, you see that darker blue that shows up northwest of the area of pink. So the NAM, at least, is trying to indicate that there'll be a rather large area of freezing precipitation, be it sleet or probably not freezing rain, but sleet. And then there's your low, which is taking its time during the day tomorrow. inching northeastward up into northwestern Iowa. So the snow area pulls out of Colorado here overnight and tomorrow morning, and then gradually pulls out of Nebraska, but just stays focused on South Dakota and Minnesota. There's going to be records that are going to go with this. And then that low winds up over Lake Superior by Friday afternoon. It is so far north and west that and the amount of Gulf moisture here is so severely limited that the showers that are developing ahead of it, not all that impressive. Now here's where you got that slight risk of severe weather tomorrow across Illinois and Indiana, and the model does fire up what looks like a narrow squall line there during Friday night into early Saturday morning. Approaching the East Coast, this front's not going to have a whole lot to work on for Friday night into Saturday morning. You get in. I'm sorry, I got my time frames. Let me roll that back. I'm sorry. It gets a little confusing sometimes when you're trying to, I got my day wrong. So this is actually Thursday night into Friday morning. I stand corrected. There's that squall line that develops across Illinois and Indiana and moves through. Then it just sort of weakens it. You get a slight refiring of it during Friday afternoon in eastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania, but it's very narrow in scope here. And when the showers arrive in the east Friday night during the early morning hours, they're just going to kind of play through, and they should be gone by 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, here comes the next system that's developing in the Gulf, in the western Gulf states, in Texas there, that 1,002 low for Saturday. This is going to create, I think, a pretty strong outbreak of severe weather later Saturday night in that area that we showed you before. This is the day 4 risk area for Saturday into Sunday, and you saw this is what the NAM does with it. It has a pretty, what appears to be a fairly impressive line of showers and storms firing up. Low pressure here, and this is as far as the NAM will take us, goes up into western Tennessee. So as far as my area is concerned, Saturday is going to be your pick of the weekend. That's the day you're going to want to take advantage of. Temperatures will probably get into the 70s from eastern Pennsylvania and possibly even into southern New England and Long Island. So the 2 weekend days, that I think is the one that you want to take advantage of. Now, what's happening with the upper air? Why is this all going on? You ask? Well, let's load the maps and show you. As we said, the Pacific just continues to send energy. I'm rolling it back to Monday, and you can watch the the short wave that came into Washington and Oregon yesterday, drops down and strengthens as it moves southeastward into Utah and Colorado, and then really just gets wrapped up here. This wrapped up upper low. I mean, that's really impressive in the upper air. This is all going on, by the way, in the east. Nothing happens independently. They all, remember, all the gears always play into each other in one form or another. So you've the short wave in the east tonight that's up in south of James Bay to eastern New England. That drops and pulls out. So you get this big ridge that pops up here in the eastern part of the United States for Thursday and Friday. And as a result, you've got this very deep, intense upper low and trough out in the plains, and that ridge forces this thing to lift up toward the western lakes. You got a big closed upper high over the Bahamas. That's a very strong upper high for this time of year, sitting off the southeast coast. The feature lifts up. Now, watch what happens in the west again as this first system lifts out. The next short wave drops right in, and you can see it here. This is Friday night down in New Mexico at the bottom of the trough. There's another upper low that develops. This one begins to strengthen as well as it swings out into Oklahoma, and then eventually will lift up toward the northeast. You still have a bit of a ridge here in the eastern part of the United States. It's not quite as strong as what you see here for Thursday when the storm in the plains reaches its maximum intensity. You got a bit of a flatter ridge here with the second short wave that comes out, so it doesn't get nearly as wrapped up as the first one did, but it's impressive enough anyway. And this one's going to lift further to the east. It's going to hold on to its strength and form much longer than the plain system when it goes up well to our west. So this one, I think, stands to produce rain and possibly some heavier rains later Sunday, Sunday night into Monday in the eastern part of the United States, and then that lifts out. And then you've got yet another one right behind us. This is really a busy pattern here. This is for the middle part of next week. You've got another deep trough dropping down into New Mexico. This is as of 12Z on Wednesday. I'm going to go back one run, and that swings east, and that one becomes a bit of a powerhouse on the GFS, and it actually was pretty similar on the European. This is for later next week. If that verifies, the severe weather that we're going to be seeing in this stretch beginning tomorrow and taking us through all of next week is going to be substantial. Areas are going to get at least a breather in between storms, thankfully, but this is going to be a pretty busy stretch of severe weather that we're going to be going through. And just to show you on the European, by the way, very consistent and very much in line with the GFS, or if you want to look at it the other way, the GFS is in line with the European. There's that first system. Here comes the second one for Sunday into Monday. Actually, the European's a bit stronger with this as it moves into the east. And now here comes the third system diving down into New Mexico and Texas, and it gets really wrapped up here as it lifts up into the Ohio Valley late next week. I thought it was pretty interesting. You don't see it too often when you match up the GFS and the European today. Here's your surface low. This is for the one for later next week, but I just want to touch upon this on the long range. You got an 88 low in southeastern Missouri. That's a pretty, it's a fairly intense low in that position for this time of year on the European. And on the GFS for the same time frame, you've got this 98 low, which, this is on the new run. I'm sorry, it's a little bit behind. So let me just match it up. We want to, apples to apples here. But here's the GFS. For the same time frame of the European, it's got an 84 low in almost the same spot for next Thursday. This is next Thursday morning. Here's the European. I mean, you don't see this happen very often that far out in the long range, where the GFS and the European are actually pretty close. Again, that's the new run. It's not out far enough, but on the old run. So you go from this, the GFS, this is 192 hour for next Thursday, and you go to the European, which has pretty much the same thing. This is going to be another, big outbreak of severe weather if it verifies. Very, very active, busy pattern. All right, so let's back up. I just want to go through the GFS really quick here on the new run. The plain storm is, at this point, the models aren't going to change very much. There's your 81 low in southeastern Missouri. Southeastern Nebraska. The GFS having, one of the models that has the lower pressure is on the lower end of the pressure envelope. It's going to be in the low 980s in terms of the lowest pressure. You get your big snows, of course. That's going to happen. There's your severe weather potential here for Thursday night into Friday morning in Illinois and Indiana. Moves eastward. Again, you'll notice that the showers become less impressive here. The low at this point over James Bay is a 94 low. It's in its decaying phase. And here comes the next one with the low coming out of Texas. Here's this. The GFS actually has a fairly impressive outbreak here on Saturday in East Texas, moving up into Arkansas and then northern Louisiana and into northern Mississippi. Is a 999 low there in northwestern Arkansas. For Sunday, the area shifts further east. This is your 15% slight risk already being indicated. The low goes into southern Indiana. Remember, this is the system that models just a few days ago trying to show it going out off the Virginia coast and putting that little stripe of snow on the northern end. And, of course, the usual people that take the bait took it and ran with it. and now they're dreadfully silent on the matter. But there's your low going up west of the Appalachians. I think this could be a 3/4 of an inch to 1.25 inch rain producer for my area. The question is the timing on Sunday, and that I'm not 100% sure of. A lot of the precip that you're seeing here in southern PA and through central New Jersey, that's light stuff. I don't know how much of that is actually reaching the ground. So you got to be a little careful with this if you're planning the weekend. I mean, let's look at the 24-hour precip. It's very, very light here, and then it really comes in more Sunday night into Monday. Not a whole lot falls during the day on Sunday. It's really Sunday night, Monday that you get into this, again, I'm thinking 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches. Some 2-inch plus amounts in upstate New York, in northwestern PA, and on up into northwestern New England out of all of this. And of course, you're seeing the waves. This is 24-hour rainfall here, by the way. Look at this, what it's producing here through tomorrow afternoon. 2 inches plus in parts of Nebraska and eastern South Dakota, and then moving into southwestern Minnesota. There's your 2 foot plus snow amounts in those areas. Now here we go for Sunday night into Monday. The Gulf states, remember, this is the area that that WPC went with 5 inches plus over the next 7 days. So the primary player is the system for Friday, Saturday into Saturday night, early Sunday, and then that pulls out, and then here comes the next one, which is not out far enough. Just want to see how the GFS on this run, if it's out far enough, if it handles it. We got it apples to apples at least. So you still have a pretty deep low. It's got a 93 low. Looks like it's not too far, just west-southwest of Memphis. The L didn't print out, but I'm looking at where the isobar is. And compared to the European, which, it's not that far off. It's very, very close with this. I would venture to say at this early point, to see the models this consistent on this system in the long range for a week from now, I wonder if this one is also going to be, something memorable in some ways, perhaps in terms of severe weather. I don't like to really say things like that this far out in advance, but when you see the models kind of line up the way they do this early in the game, you have to pay close attention to this. So just to sum it up, clearly after what was a stretch of relatively calm weather, quote unquote, most of the time, we are going into a rather strong, very bullish, severe weather pattern across much of the eastern half of the U.S. And if you want to include the snow part of the equation, of course, we could put this in the framework of everywhere east of the Rockies getting clobbered with one thing or another for the next 7 or 8 days, or maybe let's say for the next 10 days, the way the pattern is. Very, very busy. Very, very active. So, coming back to the board, nice to see our regulars and a few others on tonight. I'm going to be very interested to see how it turns out with regards to all the snow. Poland Spring Water and Company in Maine going to have plenty of water, William Huber. Yeah, well, their snow's going to melt pretty quick too. As fast as they put it down this time of year, they are going to finally get rid of all of it. It doesn't, this is what they refer to as mud season up there with all the snow melt. And being that some areas in northern Maine are seeing one of their top 5 snowiest winters on record, that is going to make for a very, very big mud season. Just running back through some of your earlier posts, seeing if there were any questions. Chris Alley, I haven't seen you in a couple of days. Nice to see you on board. What snow do we have will melt quickly, as Amy Hogan just confirms what I said as it warms up this weekend? Absolutely. Let's get rid of it and move on to spring in a big way. Your weather... help me with the market. Weather maps Domus help you with the market, Joe. Thank you for this. You are my oracle and a very good one. Thanks. You're very kind to say that. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you're getting some good use out of it with your trading. Of course, all of this stuff has impacts on markets, the grain markets, energy markets, and so on. The spring planting, spring harvesting, and all the rest of it. Winter wheat. I mean, I'm not 100% sure how that all works. I don't really pay too much attention to the commodities markets per se, but all of this stuff has a big impact on what you pay when you buy these items in their fresh form or processed form when they get to the grocery store. So, all right. So, look, let's leave it here at this point. We know we got this big storm to keep us busy here. So we'll be talking more about this tonight. You could join us on my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Chaffee, for the Joe and Joe Weather Show. That'll be at about 9:25 Eastern Time. I've been ending the show a little bit earlier so that I can upload it to YouTube between 9:45 and 10 o'clock. I'm going to attempt to do the same thing tonight going forward, and hopefully I won't have any hiccups to worry about with respect to that. So if you're not on Facebook, don't worry. I'll post it up to YouTube, and you can watch it. For those of you who would like to expand their weather experience, Seth Dominus, think about jumping on the Patreon platform, because there's more weather on there that we get into. Haven't done a Patreon live stream in a while. I might, if I can, I may try and do one later on this evening before the Facebook live stream, just to go over a few things for the local area. So if I do that, it'll probably be maybe around 8:45. It won't be a long one. It'll probably have to be about 15 minutes or so. But if I can do it, I will attempt it. And just look for a just look for a Patreon post to verify that if I can manage it. Also, for those of you who would like to follow my weather on your phone, you can do that by downloading my weather app, which is absolutely free. Here's the link to that, and you can actually use it to get the weather for your own location. It's preset to where I live in terms of the location. You have to put your location in, but you can use that and the Zoom radar. The app update that's coming out, hopefully in the next month or so, fingers crossed, will have a geolocation feature on it, so that you won't have to do that anymore. So wherever you happen to be located, it will pull up the local National Weather Service forecast for that particular area, the current conditions, and the Zoom radar will, you can move it around to wherever you need it to be. Robert Brown, you want my Amazon link? Thank you. Here's for those of you, if you ever want an easy way, if you shop on Amazon, this is really the the easiest way to support my channel, and it doesn't cost you anything. So here's the Amazon link. It's always on the descriptor to the live stream or the descriptor to the video if you're watching it on a replay. But here it is on the chat board. It doesn't cost you a dime. Just use the search bar on there and shop for your stuff. And Amazon throws me back a little bit of coin. I get a few cigars and a couple of fishing lures out of it, and I'm a very happy camper. And I really appreciate those of you who have used the Amazon link. Every little bit helps, and it keeps me, it allows me to continue to expand my presence both on video and on websites and on Patreon as well. And yes, Amy, the app also works on tablets as well. So we'll leave it there at this point. Hopefully we'll see you on Facebook. If not, you'll see it up on the YouTube channel, and we will see you all back tomorrow at roughly the same time, either 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, depending on how my schedule works. Good night, everybody.